Hello and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is John Lester, and in today's episode, we are talking about the modernization of fire safety. Is this an option or is this a necessity? And I'm really excited and lucky today to be joined by Thomas Zermin. He is the Global Portfolio Manager of Fire Safety Services at Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, John. Also happy to be with you.
Hey, it's a pleasure. And we're talking about something really important today. We're talking about the modernization of fire safety services. We're talking about the modernization of fire safety systems that keep assets, that keep people safe. Before we dive into the details, let's talk about modernization itself. When we say modernization, what do we mean?
So maybe, John, let me answer that question from three different angles. So first of all, technology-wise, it's all about replacement of end-of-life fire safety systems with state-of-the-art products. And that's also the reason why there is also in that context used different wording. For example, upgrade, update, renovate, re-engineer. And secondly, all about modernization has the purpose to satisfy customers, change processes, and also his resource situation. So, because with a modernization, he would like to take benefits out of a new system, like, for example, to ease the operation of the fire safety system. And if I look back in the last couple of years, also the cybersecurity guidelines, they changed. So therefore, also that's a topic of modernization to be up to date to the latest ones. And as we are talking about a life safety system, it's all about to keep the system compliant with the changing regulations. So I also fear there the topic of customers to extend the life of an old system. But I say, and that's my really my experience, that would lead to non-compliancy of these systems with new regulations, and then also could potentially lead to legal issues, so increased liability for the customer. So that's the second pillar or topic which modernization is all about. And the third one are different scenarios of modernization. So we can face, for example, a partial replacement where the customer decides, okay, hey, let's replace only a part of the system, being it part of the control panel of the fire detectors, and keep the rest of the system alive. Then the second type of modernization is the stepwise modernization. And I think we will also deep dive on that because it's a replacement of parts of the system in a stepwise manner with new products. So it could be new devices, new peripheral devices, new detectors. And in that, the old and the new products are working together. So that's the topic of compatibility, which is then popping up. And after X years, being it 2, 3, 5 years, the complete legacy system is modernized to new products. And lastly, the third scenario is the rip and replace. And that's one, technically speaking, really in one shot, the old fire safety system is replaced with new products. And in that sense, the old and new product are not working together. So there's no compatibility between these two ones. So therefore, I always talk about it's really a hard switch from old to new system. But nevertheless, the also in that case, the old system is completely modernized to new products.
Understand. Now, you mentioned through that conversation, and thank you for that. So it gives us a good idea because modernization is not just modernization. There are many different aspects to it, these different scenarios, as you described. And you mentioned a little bit over the last 10 years, you've seen things like cybersecurity join the conversation. We're really lucky to talk with you because you've actually been in this industry for more like 30 years. So I wanted to quickly touch a little bit on your vision over this long period of time. If we look back 30 years and now we start to really reach this next generation of fire safety systems, give us an idea. What are some of the things that have stayed the same across that time frame?
So first of all, John, thank you for reminding me that I'm already working 30 years in that industry, and it's gone so fast. So therefore, yeah. Also with your question, you're already reflecting one of the key topics in fire safety. So 30 years, three innovation leaps. So it's not comparable with, for example, other industries where the innovation cycle is more frequent every 6 months. So therefore, it's really a stable and somebody calls it also very traditional business. But on the other side, on the average lifespan of a fire safety system on customer side is all around 20, 25 years. So taking the average lifespan of a building, 60 years. So we are talking about 2 to 3 modernization projects in the life cycle of a building. So that didn't change. The contribution which modernization takes on customer side is that he can open the building. So that's the first and key pillar of a fire safety system. He has to open a hotel or a museum or whatever, and therefore he has to have a commissioned fire safety system. And that also didn't change. And that's a little bit the pity that, of course, it's running very reliable in the back, and the customer, even forgets that he has a fire safety system. But nevertheless, he has to be compliant, and also fire safety has to keep running. So the one or the other customer thinks, okay, extending the life seems to be a reasonable or efficient way. But honestly, I do not think that it is still true nowadays. And maybe we will come also to that topic in the later stage of that podcast. And what also didn't change are, in my experience, the three key pillars of activities which have to be done for a modernization project. First of all, conduct a thorough assessment of the existing system. So what does that mean? Which areas, specific areas, have to be replaced? And by doing an evaluation of the performance, of the efficiency, and the compatibility of these products, then the new technology can be selected. And that's also really a crucial part, because the existing system and the new system should be compatible. And we'll come to that topic later on, because in that sense, the customer would like to have an improved functionality and an easier operation. Because my experience, and that's a phrase which I'm using very often, modernization is more than a one-to-one replacement. Because in that sense, it ensures a smooth transition from the old to the new system.
I understand, and it's amazing, and an important thing for us to remember, as you mentioned, these innovation cycles, but also that when you compare it to the life cycle of building, it's really not something that perhaps someone thinks about every day, not something they have to think about every day, but that's because of the reliability, because of the life cycle, and because these systems continue to work in the background. So there's some of the things that haven't changed. Maybe we talk quickly about some of the things that have changed. What are some of those shifts that you've seen in the industry over these last couple of years?
So maybe let me go really back in the history of fire safety systems. So my first touch point with fire safety system have been in the early 18th, and there we were talking about conventional fire detection system, which didn't have really the capability of and characteristic of being really an intelligent device. So their functionality was very limited. But then complex new components also for the manufacturing of these fire detectors came a commodity. So therefore also the intelligence of these fire detectors could be improved, could increase. So state-of-the-art technology have really an increased robustness, combined with such kind of a type of predictability of failures, for example. And more relevant in the last 15 years, also the topic of false alarm reduction came up. So what does that mean? Several technology can distinguish between a real fire alarm phenomena and deceptive phenomena. which led to a drastically reduction of the false alarms, with the ultimate customer benefit. Hey, it's less disrupting my core business. So that's really one of the innovation leaps which I saw in that time frame. And the third generation and the fire detection 3.0, so to call it, happened in the last 12 to 18 months. First IoT devices have been launched, and they enable cloud connectivity. So also digitalization is approaching the conventional, the traditional fire safety system, and leading that we have an easier remote access, more data transparency, enabling digital services. And I see here the opportunity for the client to fulfill his responsibility as an operator with less effort. So just to name it, for example, the electronic logbook, which now with these digital services can be served to the customer, and he has less effort to fill in all the events in the past, a more paper based logbook. So therefore, that are the latest trends of the fire safety industry.
Thanks, Thomas. So we see so many things changing, and we see then different technologies, different value propositions coming into the industry. How is that changing customer behavior? How are customers now starting to absorb and recognize that value? And what have you seen that is somehow different from a customer perspective?
Now, thanks for that question, John. And here, really, a lot changed. But time-wise, let me focus maybe on the main ones. First of all, and that's also everybody's main attitude currently, the sustainability and environmental protection aspects are also for fire safety becoming more relevant for customer. And what do I mean with that? I'm already mentioned that compatibility topic, and seeing it also from not only from a positive economic effect, but also from the environmental and climate protection. With compatibility, many of the investments of a customer, which he did decades before, can be used, can simply remain unchanged. So what comes into my mind are, for example, existing cabling, wiring, detector bases, alarm equipment, or even firefighting peripherals. They can stay, and that's, in my point of view, also a contribution to the environmental aspects. So that's the first topic. Secondly, we are always talking about smart buildings. So in the past, fire safety was always recognized to being a silo because it has compliancy issues, to be code compliant and so on. So it was a kind of a silo. But nowadays, I think the customers really requesting an openness of the fire safety system. What does that mean? It means integration with an HVAC system or access control and video system for alarm verification, for example. Or what I said, also I'm seeing the emergency communication systems are more relevant in different markets. So therefore, also this integration of fire safety systems in smart buildings is really a necessity. But looking at the legacy system, that could be a challenging part because compatibility issues may arise with these systems because they are not compatible because they were designed 20, 30 years ago. And lastly, I see that facility teams, the facility personnel, are also requesting new capabilities of the fire safety system that come with modern technology. Just to name one is, for example, the mobile access to fire systems operation, because they are spending really a lot of manual effort, for example, to investigate the source of alarm. They even need two fire safety people, personnel, to investigate the alarm in the background. So their mobile functionality is really something needed and which is not available with legacy solutions.
Understand. And what I like, and which is always a really positive indication with a market that's adopting these new technologies, is that digitalization that you talked about before. The new technologies are linking so closely to those customer expectations, the need for compatibility to save not just costs, but save the raw materials that are then impacting the sustainability aspect, that remote access, that data access, which ensures that you have the right logbook created with less effort, that gives the right information to the right people, even with remote access. All of those things tie so closely together between the new functionality of the new technology and the requirements from the customer. So it's a really nice tie-in, and it also, let's say, indicates a really healthy future over these next years as this new technology becomes real. Thank you so much, Thomas. So I wanted to jump to the next topic, which is then you've given us a really great background around modernization of fire safety, what's happening and why, what are some of the aspects that stay the same, but what are some of the new technologies, new functionalities, new expectations that are driving this? And it brings us back then to talk about your one of your first topics, which is modernization is a choice that has to be made by somebody, a building owner at some point. And I'd like to discuss a little bit about how they make that choice. What do they need to consider? And when does it stop being an option? When does it stop being a luxury? And when does it start being a necessity? And how that looks from your perspective. So give us a little insight. What are some of the things that have to be considered when that decision is being made?
Let me put it really directly in the essence. I believe that if customers would like to bridge their current resource gaps, and also they have to lower their long-term operational costs, I think modernization to new digital equipments is not an option. It's a necessity. And why? Because I think in the end, it's not a question of whether to modernize. It's all about when and with whom. With whom. So when does mean, okay, do we do that in a planned manner, in a stepwise manner, fulfill all interests of different parties, or as an alternative, stretch and stretch and stretch the life of an outdated end of life system until, and that's the consequence, an emergency modernization is forced. And with whom? Of course, the customer can decide to go with his existing vendor or existing service provider, or go with a new vendor with the one or the other maybe disadvantage, which I would like also to point out later on.
Understand. Hey, Thomas, I look at the time, and what I'm interested to, is to really dive into that. So what I might propose is that we finish here, because we've learned so much about the modernization of fire safety systems that not only is it a core aspect to stay up to the compliance expectations, but also there are new functionalities, there's new digitalization technology that is pushing that. And I want to dive in perhaps in a follow-up conversation then about this next step, such an important one. And what are those examples of where certain decisions made when and with whom can make significant impacts on the functionality of a building, the usability, etc. So, hey, thank you so much, Thomas. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us today.
Yeah, thank you also, and more than happy to step into the one or the other additional topics. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you to everyone out there who is listening to us here. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe wherever you found this episode, and keep your eyes open for a follow-up conversation with Thomas where we want to dive into what we just finished talking about. When should you choose to modernize your fire safety system, and with whom? Two really critical decisions that a building owner, a facility manager have to make at some point through, or 2 or 3 times throughout the life cycle of a building, that can really affect the efficiency, the effectiveness, and also the compliance in that building. So thank you. And until we have that follow-up conversation, we'll see you soon.